Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Mind your business. Only on Money FM 89.3.
You're listening to Mind Your Business with Ahmad Akhtar. Today's youth are growing up in a world of pressure, performance, and constant comparison. Between school stress, social media noise, and unclear paths to purpose, many young people are feeling lost, uninspired, and disconnected. But what if we could change that? What if education included confidence, communication, self-awareness, and real conversations about money, mindset, and meaning? Our guest today is someone who's on a mission to make that vision a reality. Zachary Liu is the founder of Maverick Movement, a youth coaching and personal development platform that's helping teens and young adults break through limiting beliefs and discover who they really are. So without further ado, let's welcome him on the show. Good morning, Matthew. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ryan. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I just want to highlight to the audience that you have hosted the opening ceremony of the Youth Olympic Games. So if you want to reverse roles, now's the time to do it.
That was like 15 years ago, man. Times have changed. Things have changed.
All right, cool. Well, Matt, if you don't mind me calling you that. First and foremost, Maverick Movement sounds like a pretty cool name. What's the origin story here?
I think if you think about Maverick, you'll think about Top Gun, right? You think about Tom Cruise's role. But really, if you break down the word Maverick, it means to be independent. It means to be unorthodox in the way you do things. So we took inspiration from that, and we really want to do something different for the youths in Singapore and to start a movement, hence Maverick Movement.
Okay, so what are some of the most pressing issues teenagers come to you with today?
You know, you talked about the Youth Olympic Games, which was in 2010. That was 15 years ago. And when we were teenagers versus the teenagers now, they're going through so many different challenges.
Yeah.
For example, I think the one that most parents are facing, the biggest issue is their child seems to be more withdrawn. Their child seems to be more influenced by things that are happening on social media, and they don't know how to deal with certain challenges sometimes. They don't open up. They don't talk about it.
You guys have been around now officially for 3 years.
Yes.
But these ideas to start this company has been in the works for some 8 years, is what you were telling me off air. So in 8 years, have you noticed a shift in what teenagers are complaining about? I also want to highlight that, at least in my experience, I feel like the stigma around mental health conversations has diminished somewhat. Do you feel the same way?
It's very different because when we used to be teenagers, once upon a time, things like mental health were not conversations that we had. And even if you do say, I'm feeling sad or I don't know how to handle things, the response you'll probably get from your friends are like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right? And if you say that I'm going to seek counseling, they'll be like, are you depressed? And it is a stigma. But the conversation has shifted right now because youths are talking about like, hey, it's okay to go for therapy, it's okay to go for counseling. But at the same time, there's a different point of view because some students or even sometimes some parents, they sort of say that, hey, my child has a mental condition or a learning challenge. And they sort of use that, I would say, to get certain advantages.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they weaponize it almost.
I wouldn't exactly say weaponize, but they take advantage of it sometimes.
Yes, they take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your programs and, the process that students go through.
So the whole purpose of why we do this is because like when we were all teenagers, I think Ryan said it just now, like where were all these programs or mentors? And I think back in the day, it was always just study hard, work hard, go through the traditional route and you will succeed. But things are changing so fast, and with the advance of like technology, exposure to social media, the youths are growing up in a very different generation. So we want to fill that space, and really some of the programs that we do really focus on three things. One is to expose the kids to real-world experiences at a much younger age. And parents are sometimes asking like, is it too young? My child is only still 13, maybe even 10 years old. But no, they're already exposed to all these things on social media. And if you don't guide them, educate them, when they're young, they will learn it from social media.
Sure.
So the second thing is we want to expose them also to the right people. Because we believe if you want to learn something, learn from the best people. Like, even for me, my mom, when I was young, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be like you guys. I wanted to be a radio DJ. But my mom, she's Korean. She doesn't believe in these kind of jobs. She's like, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer. Why do you want to be a radio DJ? But I didn't have it in me when I was a teenager to ask my mom, what do you know about being a radio presenter, right? So I think it's really, if you want to be someone, learn from the right people, learn from the best people. And the third thing that we do at Maverick is we curate the environment for them to thrive in. Because a very sad case in schools these days sometimes, and now we're moving towards subject-based banding, where, last time we used to have express, normal, academic, normal, technical,
yes,
and we're divided into these streams, right? But now they're all integrated into the same form class. And the thing is, students sometimes, they feel more divided rather than included together. So for better or worse, it builds a certain environment in class. But what we want to do in Maverick is we build a community, perhaps outside of your school or social circle, that is supportive, that wants you to do well.
I want to touch on point number 2. You talked about being around the best people. And these kids are coming to you guys, you and your fellow therapists, do you want to call them? Or mentors, yeah, sorry. So what are your backgrounds? Why do you guys think that you're best equipped to deal with these issues that students are bringing to you?
So there are 2 main ways that students learn, right? One is they learn from someone who is qualified in terms of their education, in terms of their certification and things like that, which we do have. And the second thing is they learn from people who have gone through real experiences. So some of the people that we expose them to, for example, if they want to learn about entrepreneurship, and we really expose them to people who not just do startups, they have really scaled their business to multi-million-dollar businesses. And the beauty of it is some of these bosses or CEOs, they came from a background where they really had to start from scratch. They didn't have the financial backing. They maybe didn't have the academic qualification, but they still made it in life. So we actually want to bring forward that narrative of like, hey, the whole, what we're taught about like study hard, you do well in school, you do well in life. It's no longer just the one-track route to success. There are many ways to success. We want to expose you to all these stories, all these people, and all these possibilities.
Yeah, so examples of where your practitioners have hailed from in the past: wealth managers, entrepreneurs, founders. You yourself have interviewed senior figures like Senior Minister Lee Hsien Loong, Korean A-list celebrities. How do you screen the practitioners that you bring into the team?
I think that's a very important question because a lot of individuals, we want to do well for the next generation, right?
Yeah.
And there was recently this trend like coffee with my younger self. Do you remember that trend that was going around?
Briefly, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
it's like what I'll tell my younger self if I have coffee with him or her. And how we screen them is basically we ask these individuals who could be really successful or could be getting there, like, what would you tell your younger self? And what we really want to see through this process is like where their heart is at and whether the values align. Because sometimes when we have a heart for the youths, but we don't have that rapport with them, the youths might also feel like, oh, they're just successful, but they're preaching to us. We don't really want to hear. Right? How do we build that emotional connection with them for them to really be more open to what we have to share?
Okay. How long are these courses? Are the students locked in for a fixed period of time?
So we do things very differently because we do run traditional workshops covering on leadership, communication skills, financial literacy, but we also have like a year-long mentorship where it's a journey. Because you know how sometimes you go for classes or workshop and it's not a one-time fix, right? You learn information, but if there's no support, there's no continuation, then that transformation may not happen as efficiently or as effectively.
Okay. I think listeners at this point must be wondering, let's talk about some case studies, all right? Some real-life examples of transformation that some of the students that have attended your course have been able to experience. So can you dive into maybe a couple of examples that you can share?
I have 3, if we have time to share. That I'm really proud of them because the first one is a student who had a very broken relationship with their parents. And when the parents reached out, they're like, hey, my child is 15 at this point in time. It's not talking to me, it's shutting me out. I just cannot connect with them. So for this boy, he went through a process where he realized certain things about himself and also the parents' point of view. Because sometimes teenagers these days, they tend to just think about themselves from their own point of view. But when he realized certain things, he took steps, as did the parents. They started to mend the relationship. And I think that's beautiful because even my own relationship with my mom, she's Korean. She brought me up in a very harsh way. I resented her for a long period of time. And it was only when I grew up and all these childhood trauma, I realized it, I fixed it. My relationship with my mom is great now.
Fantastic.
But now why I do this for even this 15-year-old boy is if they realize this at their age, like things can be so much better. So that's one. The second one is this boy who at 13 years old, he was very entrepreneurial. He said, hey, I want to start my own business. I see people doing it on TikTok and things like that. I want to do it. But we're like, hey, why don't you learn it the right way, right? And sometimes we can shortcut your road to success. So we connected him to some of the individuals who are doing what he wants to do. They taught him the steps. They gave him the resources. At 13, he started his own like T-shirt business. And within the first 5-6 weeks, right, he generated 6K revenue for a 13-year-old kid.
Wow, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So that's something that we're doing differently for the next generation.
And your third example was?
My third example for you. So it's this girl. She's very studious. She called herself a nerd when she was in primary school and all that. And she is socially awkward and she's not very confident. But when she finally built her confidence, in the past, she missed out on a lot of opportunities because she didn't know how to present herself or carry herself. But when she had this breakthrough of finding her confidence, she started to step up in leadership positions. She was offered scholarship. And you could see this in the teens lingo, they call it a glow up. Right? We call it growing up, they call it glowing up. And you could see this like transformation in them, which it's very purposeful. And it goes back to how nice it would have been if someone was that person to do things or be for us.
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah, very poignant stories, all three of them. And I'm really glad to hear these success stories. But I'm sure along the way there have been some struggles, some challenges that you deal with. Can you shed light on some of those as well?
I think maybe I'll share some of the biggest challenge that parents face. And really is, they always say, I cannot connect with my child anymore because they're so glued to their devices. And every time like I try to talk to them, I try to instill a screen time on them, I'm just going to have like a constant fight or war with them, right? And that becomes so disconnected. And I think some of the major challenge is sometimes the youths don't know what they don't know, or they go into this cycle where they become exposed to the wrong crowd or exposed to the wrong things, and they spiral downwards. And I always say that there needs to be a point of intervention, or the child needs to realize things at a certain age or much earlier before they spiral down. Because if, let's say, I'll just give you an example of a student who has so much potential in them, but they don't do things at their age right now. 5 years could pass. They could go into JC, university, start working, and they might stay the same, or they might just spiral downwards. But if a student actually realizes certain things now, they build on it, they work on it, like their whole trajectory could change.
Another challenge of a different kind, a financial one, especially when it comes to parents placing youths into a mentorship program, is around how much they need to fork out for said programs, right? But in your case, you offer this on a pro bono basis, so the kids actually fork out $0. Is that correct?
So for schools, whenever Maverick Movement goes to schools, we do the talks for schools completely pro bono. So we don't ask for any fees or anything like that because we really want to do it for the schools. And then for some of our programs, which are paid programs, if the youth shows initiative that they really want to learn, we'll sponsor the kids so they don't have to fork out anything.
Right.
Because actually, back in the day when I was 16, when I said I wanted to be like you guys, radio presenter, the fee to go for this like radio workshop was like $500. And I couldn't afford it.
Right.
My parents were not supportive. And so that door was shut on me.
Yeah.
But now, because we have the means to, if a student really wants to learn, they cannot afford it now, or maybe the parents may not be able to afford it now, we still want to give them the opportunity.
Yeah, well, nowadays, to use that radio example, the barrier to entry is so low. You can just set up a YouTube channel, right? And
Exactly.
invest almost next to nothing on cameras and lights, etc. But I digress a little. What do you think separates Maverick Movement from other youth coaching initiatives in Singapore?
So the main three things that we do very differently with Maverick Movement is, one is we curate real-world experiences, because learning happens in the classroom, yes, but sometimes in a traditional learning in school, it's quite limited in terms of what can be done, what can be pushed, certain boundaries. But for Maverick Movement, we curate, first of all, the real-world experiences. The second thing is the exposure. Like I said, we want them to learn from the right people, but also from the best people. So that will accelerate their learning curve, right, and get them to the point they want to be much faster. And the third point is really to build the environment, because like there is this quote, I don't know if you heard it before, that we are the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with.
Yes, that is absolutely right.
Yeah. So if you're in the right environment with the right people, it also influences you. So we believe this is very crucial, because these days, students in school, what parents may not be able to control is which school they end up in, which class they end up in.
Yes.
The classmates, the influence around them. But what if you have an option to like place your child in an environment that you know are supportive of your child's growth?
Yeah, choose your friends wisely. I think that's rule number 1.
Do you want to be a Maverick mentor?
We'll talk after the interview is over. This is a question I forgot to ask earlier. So you don't charge the students any fees per se, but you're still a business, right? So how are you guys making money?
So the next stage of Maverick Movement, right, is we do workshops on a paid basis. That is our first model of revenue. But we're also now doing partnerships. So one of the initiatives that we are doing at the end of this year is we're going to run an inaugural Maverick Youth Awards. Because, for certain industries, in Money FM, we have a lot of financial people, right? And they have all these awards and all that. But we're like, hey, besides the EduSave award that the government gives,
yes,
there is no really award that recognizes or celebrates youths who have achieved things on a very significant scale. So that's what we want to do. And we're bringing in partners, we're bringing in sponsors, and we really want to have that constant revenue stream so we can do more and we can go bigger with our efforts.
Great stuff. I want to know why you think mentorship from leaders has such a transformative effect on young people, and what kind of breakthroughs you've seen from the pairings of teens with CEOs, creatives, and entrepreneurs. I guess this is maybe a takeaway for listeners who want to start a business like yours.
Yeah. It really goes back to when you ask, what is Maverick Movement? Why Maverick Movement, right? And it goes back to when I was a teenager, my mom, being Korean, she was always, this is your one track to success. Just study, you do well in life. And unfortunately for my mom, that was not my story. But really why mentorship is because as I was exploring hey, my mom was not very supportive then. Can I find someone who will help me? But at that point in time, honestly, there was no one. Because even when I was wanting to be a radio DJ like you guys at 16, 17, it was very hard. We send you guys email or something like that.
Yes.
Maybe we'll get ghosted, right? We won't get a reply. Then who will we learn from? So there was really no one filling that space. And now there is social media. Instead of just consuming information online, sometimes through questionable sources, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you learn from people who have been there, done that? So that's why mentorship, and it's a whole government initiative also. Mentorship SG and all that. The government is moving towards pairing mentors with students as well. But for us, we go one step further. We get the best people in top positions to actually share their story and advice to the youths.
All right, great stuff. One final question before I let you go. What is one pearl of wisdom that you can impart on listeners in respect to, or with respect to, an entrepreneurial lesson that you've learned from setting up a business based on real feedback from teens and parents?
I think you answered it also, because based on teens and parents, my business is on giving the solutions or providing the guidance for parents and youths. So for any business, I guess it's really if you can find the solution to a problem and really give the value that people are seeking, that gives meaning to business as well.
All right. Well, you've given us a lot of value this morning, Matthew. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Matthew Zachary Liu is the founder of Maverick Movement. It is a youth coaching and personal development platform. It's helping young adults break through some limiting beliefs and discover who they really are. It's been a pleasure having this chat with you, and I hope that you fulfill that dream of becoming a DJ one day, sir.
Thank you, Imad. Maybe you can be our mentor to teach the kids how to be radio DJs.
Perhaps I can. You're listening to Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.